Hey everyone, Joey here, and today I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. We all remember when this came out, it was $50 a year or $80 a year if you decide to do a family plan, which is something I'm doing so I can save some money. But regardless, this feature, of course, was met with quite a bit of controversy when it came out. A lot of people didn't really want to spend that $50 a year for, at that point, not that big selection of Nintendo 64 games or even Genesis games. And there was also the case of the DLC for Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise being included with it, but that was just only one DLC. But since then, we've had the addition of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, and just today it was announced the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion will also be included for expansion pack users. And not to mention we've had additional Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games added since the service launched, but I really want to emphasize how big of a deal it is that the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion got added, because this comes shortly after the announcement that Splatoon 3 is coming out on September 9th this year. Which is kind of bittersweet because I remember when the first Splatoon game launched right at the beginning of the summer, and that was when I was in college, and then I was on summer break, and it was just a fun way to start things off. And now Splatoon 3 is coming at the end of the summer. Why does this matter to me? I don't know. I don't even go to school. Why am I complaining about this? Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that the value of Nintendo Switch Online's expansion pack has increased exponentially recently. And I want to actually crunch some numbers together to see just how valuable the Switch Online expansion pack is. And I did this by creating a spreadsheet. I added the DLC that is included with the pack so far, as well as the Nintendo 64 games and the Genesis games. And for those, I used the prices of the Wii U Virtual Console ports of the Nintendo 64 games, with the exception of Banjo-Kazooie, because that's not on the Wii U Virtual Console, but it is on Xbox Live, so I decided to put the Xbox 360 price in there of $15. And as for the Genesis games, I included their Wii Virtual Console price. And this isn't even the entire selection of games available on the service. These are just the ones that are and were available on the Virtual Console. So there's even more value beyond the grand total. So for the DLC editions, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, the New Horizons Happy Home Paradise DLC, and Splatoon 2's Octo Expansion, that comes down to a total of $70, which is just $20 more than the $50 it costs for a year of the expansion pack. But when we get to the Nintendo 64 games, the price of these included altogether, when you compare their Wii U Virtual Console price, and again with the exception of Banjo-Kazooie's Xbox Marketplace price, that's a total of $127. And then when we get to the Genesis games, this is when the total comes down to $168, which brings the grand total value of this service down to $365 US. That already sounds like a steal, right? But keep in mind, this isn't even including the games that aren't available on any Virtual Console service. And the prices for physical cartridges of these games usually range way higher than they are listed on the Virtual Console. So you could probably safely add another $100 or even $200 to this grand total. This is such a steal when you condense all these games together, but I know what a lot of you are thinking, and I totally understand why. This is just $50 per year. This isn't just you pay $50 once and everything is yours to keep. You have to keep paying for these annually in order to keep them. And for that, I totally understand where you're coming from. As cool as it is to get these additional DLCs and this library of games, it would be just way nicer to have to pay once and just keep them forever, which is part of the reason why I miss Virtual Console so much, aside from the Wii U's weird emulator that really desaturated the games. But still, that's why Virtual Console was such a very cool thing. It's because you could just pay for these games once and be done with them. That's it. Thankfully, you can pay for the DLCs once and keep them forever, but this is where I want to dive deeper into the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion. You see, I have the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack because I do want to play those Nintendo 64 games, but it made me very happy knowing the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion was coming out on the expansion pack because I haven't played this expansion before, and now I'll be able to play it thanks to my subscription to the service. It's such a neat little surprise, and hopefully Nintendo can keep adding more DLCs to this expansion pack that I have not personally played yet. And that's where I want to continue the value of the expansion pack, because Nintendo's going to keep adding stuff to this service. It's inevitable. There's more DLCs they could add, including the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity DLC, maybe even the Champion's Ballad DLC for Breath of the Wild. Heck, it's only been half a year since the service came out, and it's already received 3 DLCs, 2 of which were brand new releases, the Mario Kart Booster Courses and the Happy Home DLC. Does this mean we'll get maybe 3 more DLC packs in the near future? It's very possible. And there's also more Nintendo 64 games and Genesis games they can add. Like, we know Pokemon Snap is coming to the Nintendo 64 library, but there's other things we don't know that could be coming, like maybe Pokemon Stadium along with the Nintendo 64 transfer pack functionality. That's just a rumor for now, but we're going to talk more about that in another video. Which also brings me to the rumors of the Game Boy and Game Boy Color editions. Even Game Boy Advance rumors are starting to surface. There's so much being added to the expansion pack and could potentially be added to the expansion pack that makes this $50 a year easily worth it. And it hasn't even been a year since the service came out. So it could be that even in the first year alone, you're already getting a big bang for your buck of $50. Even better if you only recently started paying for the expansion pack. And even doubly better if you're paying for a family plan and splitting it between a few people. That's the best way to go, I recommend that. Because if you split that $80 annual plan between 8 people, that means you only spend $10, which, if you don't know, is way less than $50 a year, thus making that value even better. So now that we have that figured out, let's maybe estimate the value of the Switch Online expansion pack in 3 to 4 years. For one, at $50 a year, that comes down to $150 in 3 years or $200 in 4 years. And keep in mind, we still have not reached that grand total that I estimated earlier of $365. Even less if you're sharing a family plan with 8 people, which comes down to $30 to $40. My goodness, the savings are unbelievable. And that's not even accounting for what else might be coming. Let's say they add maybe 4 more DLC expansions in there. They added 20 more Nintendo 64 games. They add a whole new library of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. I can't even begin to describe the amount of money you would save just spending that $50 for 1 year and gaining access to a bunch of those games and these DLC additions. But of course, there is that elephant in the room, being that you're gonna have to stop paying for this service eventually, right? Maybe even until the service just eventually ends, because we all know how that's turning out for the Wii U and 3DS eShops. But still, right now, I am happy to be a Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack member, because just thinking about the possibilities of what can be added to the service later just makes me a happy camper. I know I'm going to be playing that Octo Expansion the minute I stop editing this video. All I hope for is that this service lasts for a very long time. I'm fine paying for this service every year, especially since I am a part of a family plan, but I just want Nintendo to find a way to make this service last as long as humanly possible. Maybe it carries over into the next Nintendo console. And it's very likely that could be. We've seen PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold carry its way throughout 3 generations of platforms. And Switch Online is Nintendo's first paid service, so chances are they're planning to keep this around for a very, very long time. But those are just my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. Right now, I'm pretty satisfied with the service, but if you're not one of those people, I totally understand why. However, do you see the value of the service getting exponentially better over time? Are you hoping to see more games added to the service, like Game Boy or Game Boy Color games? Let me know in the comments below, and check out the videos on the right for more topics you might be interested in. Until next time, bye.